again, everyone. Welcome to What Happened to Your Second Amendment Rights This Week, brought to you by Right to Bear. This is our weekly recap of all things that occurred related to your Second Amendment rights, good, bad, or indifferent. Some of the topics are topics that we covered in more depth throughout the course of the week. Others are topics that we're just going to be talking about for the first time. This will be a weekly series, so if you only have a chance to watch one video and want to know what the heck's going on with the inalienable rights, this will be the one. You watch the news, you read the headlines, and you know it for yourself. Your community is less safe than it was just a few years ago. So you decided to purchase your first firearm. But like everything else in your life, you wanted to do this lawfully and responsibly. So you trained, and trained, and trained. You learned the laws of self-defense and all the tactics necessary to protect yourself and your family. To this day, you continue to train, and you now live by the motto that it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. You are prepared for anything. Or so you thought. Who are you going to call when it all hits the fan? Who's going to defend you for defending them? Who's going to stand in your corner when you realize that proof beyond a reasonable doubt means one thing in a high school civics class and something altogether different in the real world? Introducing Right to Bear, self-defense coverage that protects you so that you can protect them. With an attorney-answered hotline, you will always get a confidential conversation with your state's attorney. There are no cap limits for either criminal or civil defense. All forms of self-defense are covered, so from a fist to a firearm, you are protected. And you will have some of the nation's most passionate 2A attorneys defending you. And the peace of mind that you will have knowing that Right to Bear is in your corner, well, that's priceless. Listen, I've been in this industry long enough to know two things with absolute certainty. Good lawyers aren't cheap, and cheap lawyers aren't good. So visit my friends today at protectwithbear.com, and if you use the promo code WGL, you will receive 10% off. Listen, you need to protect yourself so that you can protect them. Visit my good friends at protectwithbear.com. Okay, so what's happening with your Second Amendment rights this past week? Well, there has been massive fallout, and we do mean massive fallout, from the ruling out of the United States District Court in Illinois in the matter of United States v. Carbajal Flores. Now, as you will recall from this video right here, this is a case in which 18 U.S.C. section 922 G5 was struck down by an Obama-appointed judge. This is the federal statute that says illegal aliens, undocumented immigrants, newcomers, whatever we're calling them, cannot be in possession of a firearm. Now, this has led to a firestorm of criticism, and it's coming from the unusual suspects, because we're seeing those who normally applaud any advancement of Second Amendment rights having very serious concerns about this ruling, myself included, by the way. And then we have those on the other side who normally would just cheer anything that disarms a civilian population, who have actually applauded this ruling. Now, the argument really comes down to this, and I leave it all for you to make up your own mind. Do illegal immigrants constitute the people as contemplated in our Constitution? And if you believe they don't, is that the only inquiry that's necessary? That may resolve the issue for you right there. But then I want you to consider the historical context of what our Constitution truly does, because unless I misunderstood my history lessons, the Constitution does not provide us with any constitutional rights. No, rather, those inalienable rights, those inalienable human rights, were given to you by your Creator. And the Constitution merely states that the government cannot take them from you. Now, are we to suggest that the Creator only gave those inalienable rights to people who were born inside the United States? So that's the other side of the coin, and that has led to a lot of people having a lot of struggles with this issue. We're going to link up some of the other creators from out here in the YouTuberverse that have done some really good videos on it, and yes, you can see that this is an issue that they too are struggling with. We will keep you updated. This is not the end of it. Obviously, the United States government will be appealing this to the 7th Circuit, and this is a long, long way from over. Another Fast and Furious scandal. Found a very interesting article on AmmoLand.com. We're going to go ahead and link it up down below. It talks about a clandestine operation called Operation Thor. Operation Thor was an undercover operation by the ATF in conjunction with other federal agencies that was very, very carefully and efficiently cracking down on the illegal importation of firearms from the United States to Mexico. Okay, so we actually had ATF agents that were trying to stop the illegal flow of firearms from the United States to Mexico because, as we all know, they're going to the drug cartels. However, it appears now, according to a whistleblower, that the minute Joe Biden stepped into the White House, Operation Thor was canceled and defunded. And since that time now, we have obviously seen a huge influx in, again, illegal gun running going from the United States into Mexico to help arm illegal Mexican drug cartels. Now, maybe it was an issue of funding or maybe it was an issue of priorities, but we know that not to be the case because take a look at how many millions of dollars the ATF spent in the last couple years going after forced reset triggers, solvent traps, pistol braces, you name it, okay? And take a look at their zero tolerance policy that they've launched on FFLs. So it's obviously not just a change of priorities. It's obviously not a question of funding. It's a question of what do they really want to accomplish here? So now I want you to ask yourself this. Why then now, with this horrific increase in illegal gun running into Mexico, do we see the Mexican government suing literally every single American firearm manufacturer? Is it entirely possible that Operation Thor was completely cut off so that the increase in violence would in fact take place, the increase in running would take place, and now we have the Biden administration who is working in cahoots with the Mexican government to sue American firearms manufacturers? Listen, we're going to go ahead and link the story up down below, and we're going to follow up with a much more thorough video about this. This is an issue that cannot be ignored. This is really just the tip of the iceberg. A veto bonanza in Virginia. Congratulations to all the lawful and responsible gun-owning Virginia residents. You will continue to be able to own, lawfully and responsibly, all the same firearms that you previously were, thanks to your governor, Governor Glenn Youngkin, who vetoed not one, not two, but 30 separate pieces of civilian disarmament legislation. Amongst them, of course, was a magazine ban and an assault weapon ban. There were multiple other typical wish list things that you might see from those that are advancing civilian disarmament. Kudos to Governor Youngkin and all of his staff. He did veto 30 pieces of legislation. He did sign two that had some bipartisan support. For more information about what he vetoed and what he did sign, check out this video right there. Better late than never, the NRA finally gets relief for its members from ATF's pistol brace rule. You say, wait, the pistol brace rule, isn't that thing dead already? Well, it's not dead yet, but it is on life support. But that wasn't the case for the NRA members, because even though the Second Amendment Foundation and the Gun Owners of America and the Firearms Policy Coalition and the National Association for Gun Rights and all those other organizations were able to go out and get immediate injunctive relief for their members from ATF's rule on firearms with attached stabilizing braces, well, the NRA finally caught up to the rest of them this past week. Congratulations to the NRA and all of its members. The case is NRA v. ATF. You can learn more about it on this video right here, and we will link up the court's ruling down below. Is Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham actually the best gun salesperson on the planet? Well, it very well may be. Now, we already know what the good governor thinks of herself and her powers, her apparently unlimited powers, where she could just suspend inalienable rights because she feels like it. We also know that she went to the state legislature this year with a huge, huge laundry list of wishes, things that she really, really wanted to have done. Most of those never came to fruition. One of the pieces of legislation that she was feverishly advancing was a 20-day waiting period. However, what she gets to sign now is legislation for a 7-day waiting period, and there is one gigantic, huge exception to that 7-day waiting period, which is if you hold a valid concealed carry license from the state of New Mexico, well, then you get to take the firearm home just as soon as the FFL gets to proceed on the NICS background check. Now, in order to get a concealed carry license in the state of New Mexico, every New Mexico resident does need to complete a 15-hour safety course. However, according to numbers now, we are seeing a massive increase in individuals who are now taking that course. We are seeing a massive increase in the number of individuals who are applying for concealed carry licenses. And what I would say to all those folks is, hey, listen, if you're willing to go ahead and dip your toes in the pool, you might as well just hop right on in, and it's time for you to purchase your first firearm. Mark my words, 6 months down the road, we will see that the biggest influx in the history of the state of New Mexico in gun sales will have occurred over this last 6 months. Is AI actually anti-2A? Well, Dr. John Lott of the Crime Prevention Research Center, one of the few scientists out there that's, actually just using empirical data to draw conclusions, decided to test 20 different AI platforms to determine which way do they lean depending on questions related to firearms and firearms laws. And shockingly to nobody, yes, most AI has a tendency to lean quite left and to be quite anti-Second Amendment. Now, this should come as a surprise to absolutely nobody, knowing what the attitude towards a person's inalienable rights has been in Silicon Valley and the tech field ever since both of them were created. We're going to go ahead and link up the story about that down below so that you can geek out on it for yourself. We're going to get a video done sometime later this week so that we can better hash out what's going on. But there's, as usual, some very fascinating findings by Dr. Lott. Okay, now it's time for our weekly special, This Week in Civilian Disarmament. This is where we search around the country to find out who is engaged in the most diabolical, most sinister, most nefarious efforts to disarm its citizens anywhere in the United States. Now, there is usually very, very stiff competition, but this week, the winner, without a doubt, a clear winner, the state of Colorado. Now, if you guys haven't checked out this video or this video here, that will get you really up to speed. But Colorado, for many, many years, even though it had a little blue tinge to it, has managed to avoid most forms of massive civilian disarmament. That is not the case this year. The democratically controlled House, and I should say vastly controlled by the Democrats. There are large margins in both the House and the Senate for the Democrats in Colorado. And that's why mathematically this does not stack up well. But if you can consider whatever laundry list of civilian disarmament legislation those on the left might have, I want you to understand that there is a bill somewhere kicking around in the state capital of Colorado that will accomplish every single one of those things, okay? There has never been a bigger onslaught, in the opinion of Washington gun law, in the amount of civilian disarmament legislation than what's currently kicking around in Colorado. And if even half of this legislation were to be passed, it would significantly and forever fundamentally change the inalienable rights of Colorado citizens. Now, Colorado, you need to get on it right now. You need to get some skin in the game. We're going to put links down below for some of the people, such as the Rocky Mountain Gun Owners Association, who's been out there fighting like crazy trying to preserve your inalienable rights. We will keep you posted, but right now things look pretty dire in Colorado. And then lastly, we're going to end every episode with our shot of the week. This is the absolute best self-defense story that we could find anywhere around the country. Today's story comes compliments of the Philadelphia Inquirer. It is about a West Philadelphia woman who arrived home Friday night around 2 a.m. She lives alone, only to find that actually her home was now being occupied by not one, not two, but 3 separate home invaders. This happened in the 6200 block of Chestnut Way out in West Philadelphia. A struggle ensued. The woman was able to arm herself and fire upon the intruders. One of the intruders was struck in the head and torso and died at the scene. A second intruder showed up at the hospital a few minutes later with a gunshot wound to his chest. The third suspect is still at large. This is a story of a single woman coming home in the middle of the night to 3 home intruders and successfully defending herself against 3 would-be attackers. And we ask ourselves, who would ever need a magazine that holds more than 10 rounds? Well, that's all we have for this episode of what happened with your Second Amendment rights this past week. Now, remember, everything that we relied upon in making this video will be linked up down below so that you can geek out on it for yourself. Special thanks to our sponsor, Right to Bear. Remember right now, if you go to Protect with Bear and sign up using the promo code WGL, you will receive 10% off. Until next time, thanks for watching. Stay safe.